Brises here that discuss Ibra Shana. So the Brisa says different reasons that work and different reasons that don't work. So we listed the first Brisa that's three words from the end of the line. Tanar Rabbonim im Ma'aber Shana elam kein ois tzrichim mipnei hadrachim, mipnei haksharim, the paths, the bridges, mipnei tanurei psachim, because of the ovens, mipnei golus Yisrael shenem komam, or if they were in exile and they left and they were uprooted from their. So all those are good, valid reasons to be Ma'aber Hashanah, but not because of snow year, not if it's too cold. Fine, so that's the first Brisa that lists valid reasons and invalid reasons to be Ma'aber Hashanah. Then the Brisa says, Tanar Rabbonim. The chicks and all of the animals are not valid reasons to be Ma'aber Hashanah. But they do count as a sad. So we had no idea, what does that sad mean? What does that mean it's a sad? Either it counts or it doesn't count. So it comes along, so then we added to the list a third brisa that's in Yud Aleph Amud Beis. And Yud Aleph Amud Beis, suddenly if you start learning the Gemara from the two dots in Yud Aleph Amud Beis, it says, what is a valid reason to be Ma'aber Hashanah? Tanar Rabbonim, al shlosha dvar Ma'aber Hashanah, ala aviv, if the crops are no good, v'ala peirsa ilan, and if the fruits are no good, v'ala tkufa, and if the seasons are not matching up. Rashi says each one of these reasons happens to connect to the different moedos, to the different Yom Tovim, Shvuos, Pesach, Aviv, and Tkufa is both Pesach and Sukkot. There's a Tkufa for Sukkot and a Tkufa for Pesach, and those are valid reasons for every single holiday. So those are the three reasons that you're Ma'aber Hashanah. Says the Gemara, how many of those reasons do you need? Al shneim ma'abrin, v'al echad mehem eimem ba'abrim. On two of them you're ma'aber, and on two of them you're not ma'aber. Namely what? If I have, and on one of them you're not ma'aber. Namely, if I have Peres Ilan and I have Aviv, that's a good reason to be ma'aber. If I only have Peres Ilan, the fruits are not sprouting out, even though it's going to affect my Shvuos, says the Gemara, that's not a valid reason. You're going to have a difficult Shvuos. You might not be able to bring the Bikurim, according to Rashi, but sorry, there's nothing else to do. That's not a valid reason. You need two and not one. However, says the Gemara, Ibayalu, at the end of the two dots, that's where we ended off, the end of the Gemara, Ala Tkufa, the Gemara says Tkufa, can Tkufa exist alone, or the Gemara was just saying Tkufa is singled out, that they're very happy about the Tkufa. So you see, the Gemara already gave a little bit of leniency to the idea that the Tkufa, if the calendar of the lunar calendar and the solar calendar is so off that the seasons are off, then that might be, the Gemara is not sure, that might be a valid reason on its own to be Ma'aber Hashanah. Okay, those are the three brises. So the question is, ask Tosfos, what's going on with these three brises? You read one brisa, you think this is the criteria. You read the second brisa, you think this is a criteria, and you have no idea what this other category called sad is. Then you read the Gemara on Amud Beis, and it says there's a brand new criteria, and you better have two of those reasons and not one of those reasons. So comes along Rashi and Taisus and says that it's all one group of reasons. It's all it's all different list of reasons. And the halacha is you always need two. Like the Gemara says on Amud Beis. Okay, so what does it mean to be a sad? So it says Tosfos, a sad means it can exist as a secondary reason. It can exist as a secondary reason. Meaning, just like the Gemara says it's not enough for the Ma'aber. If you only have Peres Ilan, but you need Aviv in addition to that, says Tosfos, if you want to replace it, instead of Aviv, you want to replace it with the Gozalos, you want to replace it with something else, then that would be a valid reason. Good. So that's the way Tosfos reads the Gemara and reshapes the Gemara. I asked Tosfos, so why were they in three independent brises? Says Tosfos, the reason is because the first brisa, which is about the paths and the bridges that collapse and the galus and exile of Yisrael, those are independent reasons, and you don't need a second reason for those. So therefore, brisa 2 and brisa 3 need two. I'm giving you a second list that can act as a secondary reason, but there's no real difference between the two of them.
So they replace.
What?
You said replace.
Replace. Yeah.
Is that
No. I meant to in addition to, right? Not replace.
It sounds to me like there are three qualities of reasons. One is those reasons that stand on their own.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
The second is those reasons that need a second, but they themselves can be the first of two.
Exactly.
And then there's the last
That can only be a second.
Only be a second reason.
Right.
What's the difference between
2 and 3?
2 and 3?
Excellent question. So Tosfos says the difference between 2 and 3 is that if you have 2 of the sads, they don't combine. Let's say you have chickens and animals. That's not a good reason. You need the gozalos and the chickens to combine with one of the reasons on Amid Beis, like Aviv, Perasa Ilan, or Tkufa.
You know what's exactly like this?
Yeah.
When's the last time you got your driver's license free?
When I moved to Fairlawn.
It's 6 points, right?
That's right. So you need these kinds of bias.
Right.
Primary.
Right. So this was I would say this is pre 9/11 because then it was just 2 points, right? Like that. It was a little bit easier then. Fine. Yeah, I hear you. It's a good mashal. It's a good mashal. So what we left off with, that was Shitas HaTosfos, but we proved last week, we went through in great detail the Brisker Rav. The Brisker Rav proves that the Rambam Shita is not like this. The Rambam says that really what's the real McCoy, what's the real Ibra Hashana is the Bryce on Yud Alpha Mabez. Peres Ilan, Aviv, or says the Rambam Tkufa alone. Interesting. The Rambam Paskins Tkufa alone, even though the Gemara left it off as a suffix. And then the Rambam says, and if you want to have another additional reason to present to the tzibur why you're being Ma'abras Hashana, you could say because of the gazalos, because of the animals. So the Rambam clearly defines Osin Sad Lashana, has no halachic relevance, but is rather a PR stunt. Is something for you to present to the people. But if you want to know what Bezdin is to discuss on a halachic basis, whether or not this year warrants an Ibra Hashana, an extra month or not, we're going to discuss these real reasons. Maybe we'll discuss, none of the chickens and the animals are going to be discussed. That's not what a Sad Lashana means. Sad Lashana means it helps you because when people are going to attack you and say, why is it an extra month? What do I need extra month for? What are you doing over here? No, you know about the chickens and the animals and the this and that, but that has no halachic significance. So the Brisker Rav explained, and the reason why the Rambam says that everything is based on the of the Peres Ilan and the Tkufa, because the Rambam is of the opinion, said the Brisker Rav, that these entities are really all one and the same. Aviv, Peres Ilan, and Tkufa, the Brisker Rav does not explain, like the way Rashi says, that it's 3 independent reasons connecting to different moados. One connecting to Shavuos, Peres Ilan, one connecting to Sukkot, the Tkufa, and one connecting to Aviv, the crop that's going to be Akravas HaOmer of the Aviv. Says the Brisker Rav, no. According to the Rambam, there's one focus. It's the pasuk Shmor es Chodesh HaAviv. Pesach is the most important entity when it comes to Ibras Hashana. And what? These are 3, the Rambam changes the language of the Gemara, not Rosh Dvarim. These are 3 simonim that the Aviv is not going to be on track, and you're going to have a difference between the solar and lunar calendar, and you're not going to be able to fulfill the overarching principle of Shmor es Chodesh HaAviv. But everything is based off of what Yontif? Only the Yontif of Pesach, only the Chodesh of Nisan. And because it's all about linking the solar and lunar calendar for Shmor es Chodesh HaAviv, that's why the Rambam held on his own that Tkufa is enough of a significant reason to fulfill that. And you only need the 2 other reasons that are lower level simonim need to combine to be enough of a factor. So therefore the Brisker Rav backs himself and it supports this argument. That's why the Rambam could never say that the chickens and the animals are actually attaining any halachic relevance, because that has nothing to do with the solar and lunar calendar. And if the whole purpose is in order to what? To achieve that Chodesh Nisan should be in Zman HaAviv, then that obviously has nothing to do with the animals. Has obviously nothing to do with the chickens. So then what does the Gemara mean when it says Sa'ad? It means PR. That was the whole analysis of the Brisker Rav. So we asked the kasha, which the Brisker Rav doesn't explain. The end of last year, we asked, what kind of fake business is this? What is this? PR. This is not the year 2017. This one's things were actually authentic and real. Rabbonim need PR? Come on, what's going on over here? How could you have a system like this? So it's a little bit of a pella. Osin Sad Lashana, you have to have a good excuse. Discuss what's halachically relevant and what's not. So Soloveitchik got a beautiful answer. And it's based on a discussion that we've had in the past. When it comes to Masechah Sanhedrin, there are certain issues that the Bezdin HaGadol is needed, not for their koyach hapsak, but for what they represent. If you remember, we discussed the idea of kibush haaretz. The Rambam writes, for a melech to go out and to conquer the land, the Rambam writes in one place, you need the Bezdin HaGadol. That's one area in the Rambam in Hilchos Malachim. And then the Rambam in another area in Hilchos Trumas says you need Rov Yisrael. So the Rav asked to steer in the Rambams. Which one do you need? Do you need the Rov Yisrael or do you need the Bezdin HaGadol? So the answer is there are certain times that the Bezdin HaGadol represents the voice of Am Yisrael. And that's a way for us to decide whether or not this is something that's within the interest of Am Yisrael. And certain halachos warrant the opinion and the ratzon and the will of Am Yisrael. And one of those halachos suggested the Rav was Ibra Shana. And that's the answer to the Rambam that we dealt with in great detail. The Rambam in Sefer HaMitzvos, we learned it I think a month ago. The Rambam Sefer HaMitzvos is Machadish al pi atzmo, says that in order for you to be Ma'abras Hashana, you need the Bezdin HaGadol. So the Ramban asked, how could it be? We know that you were Mekadesh Chadoshim and Ma'abras Hashana. They were able to do that until the Zman of Abaye and Rava. And the Gemara says clearly, even when they were outside in the Golus, and Bezdin was no longer convening in the Lishkas HaGazis, and once Bezdin was no longer convening in the Lishkas HaGazis in the Beis HaMikdash, that means there was no functioning Bezdin HaGadol. That's why we weren't able to give capital punishment anymore, because we weren't in the Oso Makom, which allows capital punishment. If so, says the Ramban, that's a proof positive to the fact that there is no necessity of Bezdin HaGadol when it comes to Ibra Hashana, when it comes to these ideas of Kiddush HaChodesh. That was the Bam Kasha the Ramban had on the Rambam. So Rav Soloveitchik answered for the Rambam that it's not Bezdin HaGadol b'teres Piskei Bezdin HaGadol. And that's why it's not said in our Mishnah, which is speaking about Bezdin HaGadol in terms of the third category of Psak. There's a psak of Dinei Mamonis with 3, there's a psak of 23, and there's a psak of 71. And the Mishnah lists all the different cases of the psak of 71, like an Irani Dachas, like judging a Kohen Gadol. Those are things that need a psak of 71. Then there's a role of Bezdin HaGadol to just represent Am Yisrael. Just being that figurehead that now can represent what is in the good interest and what is the will of Am Yisrael. So said Rav Soloveitchik, you're right. When there's a Bezdin HaGadol, then Bezdin HaGadol is that role and is that representative. But when there's no Bezdin HaGadol, so then it's whoever is that authority and that figure that could represent all of Am Yisrael. And if there are other Gedolim in Chutz La'aretz, then those other Gedolim will be representative. And that's what Taisa speaks about over here. There will be Akiva when he was in the exile, even though Am Yisrael was in Eretz Yisrael. When Rabbi Akiva was stuck in jail when he was in the Golus, he was able to be Ma'abras Hashana. Why? Because Lo Niach Kamoisei Eretz Yisrael. The Gemara is about to tell us that we need Eretz Yisrael for Rabbi Hashana. No, you need the representative of Am Yisrael. In a normal situation, that's Eretz Yisrael. That's the Gedolim in Eretz Yisrael. But if Rabbi Akiva gets stuck in Chutz La'aretz, so then he has the ability to have that role and to have that will. So what is Bezdin trying to achieve, Rabbi Say? Bezdin is trying to achieve that this should be the Ratzon of the Am. That this should be what Am Yisrael actually wants. But in honesty, where is the koyach to be Ma'abras Hashana coming? It's not from Bezdin. Even the Rambam agrees it's not from Bezdin. Bezdin is just representing Am Yisrael. And that's why we said, if you remember, even Bizman Hazeh, the Rambam holds, and I said they should read this in the Knesset. This is the biggest proof to Yiddishkeit. This is the biggest proof to us having Eretz Yisrael. The Rambam says, anyone who tells you there will not be Jews in Eretz Yisrael is a shakron. Because if so, we can't have Rosh Chodesh. Because it's only because of the Jews in Eretz Yisrael that are living there that are being kaiveya, the Chadoshim. Not because we announce Rosh Chodesh here. It's the Jews in Eretz Yisrael. What do you mean? Who made them chashiv? They didn't have smicha. They don't have smicha from Moshe Rabbeinu. The answer is they represent the Am. Unfortunately, the Rambam writes this elsewhere in the Perush Mishnayos and Hurrius. The Rambam writes that anyone who's living in Chutz La'aretz is kiyachid dami. We are not considered Am Yisrael. Am Yisrael is only in Eretz Yisrael. And that's all the cheshbonos of whether you want to know whether or not Rov Tzibor did an Avera and you have to bring special korbanos. That's going to be based on a cheshbon of Rov Tzibor in Eretz Yisrael, not in Chutz La'aretz. So a whole tshuva of the Avnei Nezer discussing and bringing proofs all over Shas from different Rambams about this idea. But the Tzibor is in Eretz Yisrael. So that's why Rosh Chodesh is nikba based on the Yidden in Eretz Yisrael, based on the Jews in Eretz Yisrael. Sim Kain, it's very posh. It's not a PR stunt. It's over here, even though it doesn't have the halachic trigger, and that's going to be koveya, but the idea of having a sad is very relevant in the idea of Ibra Hashana and Kiddush HaChodesh. Because the koyach for us to actually practically be Me'aber Hashana is through whose will? Whose ratzon? The Am. So presentation over here, our marketing over here is key and is integral. And therefore, the Rambam could understand that there's a separate category in the Brises called Osin, Osan, Sad Lashana, even though they're not necessarily going to be the halachic trigger and the halachic issue that's going to decipher whether or not we need an Ibra Hashana or not. But there's going to be a separate necessity in only Ibra Hashana and Kiddush HaChodesh that we're going to have a presentation and something that's convincing in order to produce the will of the Am. Yeah, Abe. Yeah, 1 second, Mark.
You have all the Sa'adim, right? But there's no halachic reason to do this, so all the PR is going to go in the face of, they're going to say, we can't do it even though the Am's Ratzon is to be mine.
Right, correct, it's true. That's what's called fake news. That's, yeah.
Then you're going to have a problem.
Right, exactly, yeah. Mark.
They only had kufa and oven and had no sod.
So listen, I didn't say that you can't run a business without good marketing. If you have a great idea and you're a bad marketer, it can still work. I'm just bothered, you're right, I'm just bothered, what I'm saying is, why would there ever be something so fake called Assad? So now, according to this background, I can understand, there's an idea called Assad. And Assad actually makes sense. And therefore, the Gemara says, according to the Rambam, what you could present as Assad and not. You're right. Technically, you can produce. It can still take effect even without Assad. It depends how good of a marketer you are. But we Bichlal want to. You're right. But we Bichlal want to know, why would there even be an entity called Assad if it has no halachic regular events? So I think in light of the Rav's explanation of Shitas HaRambam in general, that's the most it's a beautiful addition to the Brisker Rav. It's almost like you read the Brisker Rav and you're just like, okay, I see what he sees in the Rambam, and it's not even a Brisker Rav, it's basically the Rambam. The Rambam says this is not one of the reasons. Only the ones on Amud Beis are the reasons. So then you're just like stuck there and you're reading this and you're just like, so what in the world is the purpose of Assad? Why did the Raisa teach it to me? But in light of what the role of Am Yisrael is in this halacha gufa, based on the way the Rav explains the Rambam and Sefer HaMitzvos, now we can understand the concept of marketing, the concept of Sad.
So maybe again, you can explain it with the fact that you may still need those marketing, but it's not clear cut.
You may what?
You may require that. I'm saying it's not like, let's say you have to explain, but it's not clear cut that Kufa is real, because it's not like all the way, in February or something like that, that it's clear that you have to do it.
Right.
At a certain point, you may need some
PR,
sad
right.
in order to set
Right,
it,
right,
to set it up.
right, right.
And that kufa is not really something
Right.
that you have, for yourself you may know, all the simanim is, but it's not enough.
But that can't be a trigger to decide. You have to have the other factors in order to decide, and you can only present it according to the Rambam.
No, but I'm talking about kufa.
If you have Kufa alone.
So, exactly, but
Right.
how do you define kufa?
Right.
Where's the sun compared? They knew it, right?
Yeah,
They knew
right,
some
right. So then you would
astronomy
need
back then.
something else.
But the what do you
Exactly,
I mean, it's
right,
still cold,
correct.
or it's
Right.
what are you adding me? It's
Doesn't-
also-
right.
So
But it's still taking the Am, into the significance
No,
of the
no,
Am, into
absolutely.
right, 100%, right.
So why stop there?
What do you mean?
Why stop at those 3 Sa'adim? Come up with 100 other ones.
Right, meaning according to this analysis, Anything could be good PR. It's a good kasha. Yeah, I don't know. For some reason, I mean, it really gets back into the kasha that Itai asked when it comes to the Minchas Chinuch. Once you hold Atam Afilu Shogin and really any rationale works, and even if they're wrong, even if Bezdin's wrong, the Minchas Chinuch holds against the tzlach that what? Even if Bezdin makes a mistake in Ibra Hashana, it works. Because Atam Afilu Shogim, it's in Yanim of Zman, and Atam Afilu Shogim, even if you're wrong, Atam Afilu Mazedim. So then the Minchas Chinuch asks, so then what's the list of the Brisa that doesn't work? So Minchas Chinuch said, you're right. Minat Torah, it should have worked. And Midrabanan, they decided, this doesn't look good. This isn't a good reason. So in the same wavelength, I have to say, it's a little harder to say it here because it's all PR and it's all fake. Right. So Midrabanan, they decided, that really makes us look bad. So like they said, come on, give a good rationale, give a good reason. But
specifically say what's not. So
yeah, but David's asking once if it doesn't have halachic relevance, so let them say what they want. Let them say, you know what, we wanted to give you an extra year where you were behaving nicely. So, yes, so it has to be something like they made a system. They made a system of what works.
I said this last week.
Yeah.
I think the Jewish people are insulted that they have to worry about that. They not worrying about keeping the halacha. And look at this coming year. Pesach comes so early.
Yeah. Yeah.
So perhaps this could have been pushed. This year, coming year, could have been that leap year. But weighing because it's not black and white. It's shades of black and gray.
Right.
So
When's it due? Is it before or after?
the side, I don't know, I have a calendar. The side would be pushing us a little more one way or the other way. That's how I see it.
But not in the Rambam holds not in halachic sense.
No, because now it's a very gray area. Like for example, this coming year, Pesach.
No, but you could have, according to the Rambam, you could have all the sads you want, and that can't affect.
No, the side helps me say I can push it off till next year, or do it now, do it this year.
I don't think so, because then the sad's playing a halachic role.
The sod is a birthday card.
Exactly. It's all just a presentation, but it doesn't have.
It's a birthday card. It's
Yeah.
not the gift. The gift we have here in the Mishnah.
Right.
But
Yeah.
you don't just hand the gift, especially if it's your wife. You have to sell it. You give her a nice card. You have to sell halacha. That's what it's halacha.
Well, so that's what we're pointing out, where we got to one daf in Shas that according that Rav Soloveitchik was suggesting that maybe you have to sell halacha over here. That's the chiddush. What? Exactly.
The question's not a question. That's before we have Kriyas HaChodesh, al pi luach. Now that we have Kriyas HaChodesh.
Yeah, I think he was saying in theory, if this was the
No, but
situation.
according to the Rambam, it still
No,
doesn't.
it won't make a difference.
No, it's still according to the Rambam. You still need to have that.
You have to have Eretz Yisrael. There's
Because
continuous
if
kiddush.
nobody was in
Right.
Eretz Yisrael,
We wouldn't have Rosh
we wouldn't
Chodesh.
have Rosh Chodesh.
Right.
Even if we have all the.
The Ramban holds that the Kviyas was already done by Hillel, but the Rambam holds it's a continuous kiddush through the Jews in Eretz Yisrael.
You can't step in the middle of the Rosh and say,
Yeah, right. You can't decide we want to be Ma'aber. And, yeah. I think they're, even according to the
But again,
Rambam,
according to the Rambam, good. That
the
it
mechanics
says
work.
it was always
Yeah, the mechanics work
Jews
through
in
us.
Israel.
Yeah, right.
So,
Okay, so let's just catch up with a little bit of Gemara, and let's see what happens over here. So the Gemara says on Amud Beis, we're going to go on Amud Aleph. We're going to just try to finish up and cover some ground over here. So the Gemara discusses Ketzad. The Gemara wants to say as follows. Listen to this story. Ketzad Rabbi Yanai Armer Mishum Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Meudon Anachnu Lechon de Gozalia Rechichin. What happened? Rabbi Yanai said, in the name of Shimon Gamliel, we were notifying everyone that the Gozalia were Rechichin. That means that the chickens were very skinny. V'imraya Darikin, and also the stalks were very weak. V'zimna Daviva Lomata, v'shapred Milsa Ba'ampe V'osif Al Shasa Dot Close and Yom. We're going to add on this year 30 days because of these reasons. Meisve Kamer Ibra Hashana. So the Brisa asks, how much is Ibra Hashana? Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer Chodesh. Omer Rav Papa. Rav Papa says Ratzu Chodesh, Ratzu Shloshim Yom. It could be 30 days, or it could be a Chodesh, which will be a little bit less than 30 days. So Gemara says, Ta chazi mai ika ben takifai kadmoi li'inivuse basroi. So the Gemara says, I want to show you something. Look at the stark predecessors, our ancestors, the Talmidei Chachamim from the earlier generation that were mamish takifim, and the humble later Talmidei Chachamim. Tisanya, as the Brisa says, Maisa bring Gamliel, there was a Maisa with Gamliel, Shayoshev al Gav Malabar Abayis. He was sitting on the area of the Harabais. Vayochanan Seifer Haloz Oimed Lefonov V'Shalosh Igaros Chatuchos Lefonov Munachas. And Rabbi Yochanan the Seifer was standing in front of him, and he says, take 3 letters and write 3 letters to 3 different locations. Tol Igarta Chada, take 1 letter. Ukosov Lachana B'nei Galiloi Ilah V'Lachana B'nei Galiloi Tata. Write to these different locations in the Bnei Galil of the Ilah and the Bnei Galil Tata. So what did it say in the letters? Shlomchen, how are you? Yaska meudin anachnu lechon dizman biura mata la'afrushe maisra. We just wanted to notify you that the zman bir maisras, which is the time that you have to make sure to get rid of all of the trumas and maisras from your house from the 3rd year and on, basically Erev Pesach of the 4th year and the 7th year, the zman bir maisras. Mematina de Zeizaisa of the Zeisim, which was relevant to their markets. Vitoli Garta Chada, and take another letter, Vikosov Lachana Bnei Droma, and write to the southern people. Shlomchen Yasga Ma'odon Anachnu, how are you doing? And we're notifying you. Dizman Biura Motal Afrushe Maisa Me Omre. We want you to know that the Zman Bir Meisers, obviously it was the 3rd and 6th year, that the Zman Bir Meisers is coming up, it was the 4th and 7th year, after the 3rd and 6th year, that you should now get rid of all the crops in your house and do Bir Meisers on what? Me Omri Shubalia, from the Omrim, from the stalks of wheat that they had in the Darom in the south. Good. Now what's the relevance? Listen to what happened. Vitol Igarta Chada. And take 1 letter. Uksav la'achana b'nei galusa b'Bavel. And let you write to what? To our brothers in Bavel. Chutz la'aretz. Ula'achana d'b'madai. And also to our brothers in Madai. Ul'shar kol galusa d'Yisrael. And to all the b'nei galus. Shlomchen yaskol la'alam me'hodin anachnu l'chon. I'm notifying you. De golzalia rachichin. The chicks are skinny. V'imraya arikin. And these stalks are shvach. V'zimna da'aviva lomata. And the aviv has not come. V'shap ramilsa ba'an pai u'ba'an pai chaverai. And this was accepted in front of me and my chaverim. V'osifs Allah al shasada yamin tlasin. So the Gemara says, and therefore we're adding 30 days. Basically, he's notifying the Bnei Galos that what? That there is a reason over here to be ma'aber Hashana. Right? But what are the reasons? Zimna de aviva. Right? The aviv. Right? Right? And what else? Gozalia rechicha v'yamari arakin. Tu sadin. So I had this kasha on Shita. This is a raya brura to Shita Satosfos and Rashi. You see over here that they had enough of a reason to be ma'aber Hashana with aviv, which is one of the 3 of the next brisa. And what? And Sa'adin. So isn't that a proof that a Sa'ad counts as a second reason? Because you can't be Ma'aber Hashana without 2 reasons. So this kasha bothered me for a long time. I remember I asked this to Rabbi Tzarfati, what his opinion was. We didn't have an answer to this. Until I found a sefer Ashel Shlomo, of Shlomka Berman, who was Rosh Shiva in Ponovich. And he asked this kasha. It's a raya against the Rambam. from this Gemara. You see that the Sad's playing a role. But he says perhaps the Rambam read the Gemara differently. If you remember, there's two things called Aviv. There's Aviv in the Brisa, that means the stalks, that means the Tvua, that means the Omer for Hakravas HaOmer on the second day of Pesach, that we're not able to bring it. That's Aviv as one of the three reasons brought in the Brisa. But then there's another Aviv, which the Brisker Rav says is the essential yesod of what? Of Shmoras Chodesh HaAviv. So perhaps the Rambam understood this Brisa and this letter to mean that Aviv he was writing means not Aviv as being the Omer and the spring as not being. That's true. That's true. It's the least order. But he says maybe the Sad was just PR. And the way you're going to put your PR is you're going to put the PR first in the list because you got to satisfy the chevra, the customer. But then, bottom line, what's the reason why I have to be Ma'arbis Hashanah? Because I don't know Tkufa. Because the whole lunar calendar and solar calendar is not matching up. Maybe Aviv here didn't mean Aviv of the Brisa, but Aviv meant that the whole Tkufa is off. That you're not matching the Chodesh HaLevana with the Chodesh HaChama. And that's why he was, so yeah, L'chora, based on what we just discussed, you have to have, now Machlokes Rishonim had to read this letter and what was going on over here in order for the Rambam to not count Asad to have halachic relevance.
Why didn't he notify the Bnei Tzafon and Bnei Doron?
Oh, beautiful kasha. So what Adi is asking is, it's not only relevant for the Bnei Galus to know about an Iber Hashanah, but it's also relevant for the Bnei Eretz Yisrael to know about an Iber Hashanah. So one could suggest, I think in the back of the Gemara they asked that kasha. Marzchias asked your kasha. When did this happen? In the time of Rabbi Gamliel. I mean, it couldn't be past Adar.
No, but they already knew that there are simanim.
Yeah, it's before Nisan. It's sometimes before Nisan.
Adar, something.
Yeah, it's in Adar.
But they needed some formal notification. The fact that someone needs to work 2 more weeks in order to get to Bavel, that's maybe they had to send in advance and they had time. Or they wouldn't change their mind if they already sent the letter. It's on the local news. They don't get
So Rashi says, they're close to Eretz Yisrael. It's Rashi Dira Maskim Matin Zesa. Rashi says, Makom Kivat Hazesim, these areas in the Galil, they used to collect olives, Liz Chamim, Zel Zebegalil, Havizesim Merubim, Badarim Chitim Merubim, and in the Darom they were Chitim, that's why they wrote the letter about the Chitim. Ve'ein tzarich lo diyam ala iber, shekroven heim lebezdin, avle b'nei goyla, sherechoikin me'eretz Yisrael, tzarich lo diyam ala iber, shelo yochlu chametz bePesach. Because what's going to happen, they're going to eat chametz on Pesach. So that's the mitzvah eis anadi, ulechora ein zetam, shari gamba eretz Yisrael. Says the mitzvah eis, and this is shvach. Because I learned Maseches Rosh Hashanah. And in Maseches Rosh Hashanah, they also had to notify everyone about Rosh Chodesh. L'chorin zatam. Shari gam be'eretz Yisrael lo yeshluchin yoitzin al shisha chadashim lo di. They used to be Mechalel Shabbos. They used to be Mechalel Shabbos to let people know. Lo yidian im ibruas hachodesh aloi. V'lo yisagi b'zeh shekroven lebezdin. So why did they say, what, for the people nearby, I don't have to notify them. Then you wouldn't have to send shluchim on Shabbos to be Mechalel Shabbos to let them know. V'amai sagilin in hodas Hebrew Hashanah. So Tosfos says in Rosh Hashanah, Tosfos in Rosh Hashanah deals with this. He says, once the cave in the Shluchin Yoitzin, that's exactly the answer. The Shluchin were Yotzei for Eretz Yisrael. So once the Shluchin are Yotzei Eretz Yisrael for Rosh Chodesh Nisan, so they're going to tell him, by the way, it's Rosh Chodesh Adar Sheni. So the reason why the other people know is not because of Rashi's reason. Mitzvah Eisen said Rashi's reason is very schwer. Because the truth is that we had a telegraph system. We had a system of sending shluchim. We used to send them and they used to be Mechalel Shabbos. Says the mitzvah Eson, and that's the answer to Rashi's kasha. Since there are shluchim going out to let them know about Rosh Chodesh Nisan, so then they'll know. By the way, you should know. Bezdin told me this week, this month is not going to be Nisan; it's going to be Adar Sheni. So it's not because they didn't need to know; it's because they were already notified through the shluchim that exist through the Mishnayos of Rosh Hashanah.
Another kasha. So why send the letter at all then? Why do they? So why do they notify?
No,
them
the
that
letter.
it's time
The letter was
Later,
not.
so-
The letter to them was not about Ibra Hashanah.
Is it urgent?
The letter was about Bir Meisers. Yeah, you have to know this is the Zman. Right now, you have a lot of olives right now. You got to take care of this because it's also for you to eat this. Yeah.
That's the urgency.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And they did another perm.
They did another Purim. Yeah, correct. That's the Gemara in Megillah. The Gemara in Megillah, and according to the
If they didn't know that it's going to be Rosh Hashanah, they
Right.
had to do a complete.
depending on when this happened, right? But the way I'm saying it out, if they sent out on Adar and Adar Sheni, they would have to redo. It's a machlokes Rishonim and Megillah on Daf Vav, whether or not they have to redo all the mitzvahs. The Rosh is of the opinion, if I remember correctly, the Rosh is of the opinion that you were Yotze the Megillah already. You don't have to read it again. But most Rishonim say you have to repeat all the other mitzvahs of the Chodesh.
Rashi's explanation of the Bnei Chosarts will be eating chametz on Pesach.
Yeah.
They're not going to be eating chametz on Pesach. They're going to be making an extra Pesach in real Adar Sheni.
No, they're going to eat chametz on Pesach.
On the
A
Pesach,
month later.
the real Pesach.
Yeah.
So by that time, you'd think they would find out.
I don't know. I don't know if there was. It depends on the communication.
Rashi does make sense. If within Rashi, but
Right.
most people are going to hear
Right.
word of mouth.
You're saying you have more of a buffer. You
By
have more of a
6 weeks
buffer.
from now, okay, maybe they won't. They will not have heard.
Maybe
by-
the only way they find out is through letters. I don't know. Back in the day when you would go from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, how long would it take to travel? No, there weren't shluchim. That's the point. There were only shluchim in Eretz Yisrael. That's why I'm sending letters. I'm sending letters because it's not going to be the classic shlichus. The mitzvah Eson is saying Rashi's reason is wrong, and the reason is because you have shluchim in Eretz Yisrael, you don't have shluchim in Bavel. So therefore, I need right, and that's why that's the whole idea of Sveika Diyoma, because they didn't get the messages quickly to Bavel, and they needed to know. So apparently, you're right, David. Even a month and a half later, they're not going to know. Yeah.
No, and then the other probably that's only one of the reasons. There are a few other reasons, Bachal Batala, and they were going to do Pesach.
Right, but he's asking overall, if you would know by that time,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
know that, but they don't want to.
Pesach, so you made bracha l'tal, fine, but at least we're eating chametz on Pesach.
Yeah.
It's not-
The point is, there wasn't a classic shlichus system that required a letter for this purpose. The only other kasha that really we discuss, and then we'll close, is that the Rishonim, the Ran already. I think this is on the Marmar Kaimis. Does everyone have? We copied a Ran on one of the sheets, and it's on a double. It's with the tzlach. So the kasha is, Rabbi Gamliel asked the Ran was after Churban HaMikdash. So asked the Ran, Rabbi Gamliel was after Churban HaMikdash. Again, what's the whole purpose of this brayso? The whole purpose of the brayso is to show us that Ibra Hashanah could be 30 days. And it was showing that Rabbi Gamliel was stronger than the later Talmidei Chacham that were anovs after him, right? So what was the proof of the Gemara? Let's just speak out the proof. The Gemara says because they spoke in terms that needed the opinions of the other Talmidei Chachamim, and Rabbi Gamliel would have said on his own, I think that the year needs an Ibra Hashanah, and that's it, because I'm a takif. So the Gemara says, Dilma Basar Davruhu. Maybe this is after they removed him from office, from his job. The Gemara says, if you read the first Rashi, Rabbi Gamliel shayanoig srara. Rabbi Gamliel, who took his authority seriously, v'zarek meira b'talmidim, and he would instill fear into his talmidim. Kedashkam b'chayris u'b'brachos b'Rosh Hashanah titzayrei l'Rabbi Yeshua, that he caused pain to Rabbi Yeshua. A Gemara we spoke about. Afilu achi ktani bei, and even so, B'shapra milsa ba'anpay ba'anbei chaverai. Reb Shimon Brei da'avamin avusa ba'asroi kada amron ba'asrichos apoilim lomer ba'anpei chaverai. Again, the Gemara is saying there's an irony here. Rabbi Shimon, who was an unav, never said ba'anpei chaverai when he wanted to send a letter for Ibra Shana. And Rabbi Gamliel, who was once a takif, and he would instill fear into all the Talmidim, what did he say? We want to send a letter, we think that, and it's not just me, it's the opinions of all of my companions and all of my Talmidei Chachamim around me, ba'anpayu, ba'anpei chaverai, that there should be an Ibra Shana. So the Gemara is showing the irony that the anavim, the people who are such anavs, they speak with stolz, they speak without including other people, and Rabbi Gamliel, who was such a takif, he doesn't speak with such a stolz, and he has to include all of these friends around him. So what's the Gemara's answer? The last two words, Dilma Basar da Avruhu. Gemara says, yeah, this is after they pushed him off out of office. This was after he was a takif. This was after he no longer had his position. So then he started talking. But it's not a proof that the takifim are, and there's an irony that the takifim are any less. If he was in his takif stage and echanami, then he would still talk tough. But this is after he was impeached. This is after they moved him. They moved him away. So the Ran asks. So this Rabbi Gamliel was post Churban HaMikdash. So what's the obvious question? Asked the Ran. If he's post Churban HaMikdash, where's the Ran? Everybody say, what's he writing in the letter? The Gozolos. Excellent. What's the relevance of Gozolos post Churban HaMikdash? Right? We said in 2 weeks ago, Gozolos araya teshitas Rambam. That you can give a carbon oilus re'iyah with a bird. That was the Rambam's Makar, was our Gemara. That's the Or Sameach fancy Chiddush that he sees in our Gemara. Whatever you're going to say, and according to Rashi, it was for the Yoledes. It was for, at the end of the day, it's karbanos. Those are reasons.
It's not a siba, it's a siman.
So, but the siman, the siman doesn't even have to be relevant?
Siman that's supporting the tkufa.
Oh, so the Ran says, you're right. It's just, it's a reason that in theory, if the Beis Hamikdash would have been standing, that would have been enough of a reason, enough of Meir B'mana Beis Hamikdash, and the Ran holds that would be sufficient. The Yad Ramah disagrees with the Ran, and the Yad Ramah says, although Rabbi Gamliel was in a time of post Churban HaMikdash, he was obviously speaking in theory, historically, when there was a Beis HaMikdash being Kayam, and that was what they would write in the letters, but that's not actually what he's referring to himself. A little bit of a doichak. So I saw in a sefer an interesting idea that if, like what Adi is saying, the Ran was of the opinion we proved that really any reason works, like the Minchas Chinuch. Atem afilu shogim works. You don't really need a reason. And that's what all these reasons of ksharim and airports and bridges, they're all a function of any reason is good. And in Torah, any rationale works because you have the koach of zman. You have the koach to be able to be ma'aber. So if so, according to the Ran, you can understand why they could even argue an excuse of even a reason that's not relevant bizman hazeh. Even a reason that's only b'meher yibana beis hamikdash. Even a reason that's only going to be relevant if the situation would change. So the Ran says that also counts because the real McCoy of Atam Afilu Shogim, that's the real bona fide reason. That's gonna exist as well. Masha'enkin, the Yad Ramah who held, how do you me'aber Sashana from the drachim, from the ksharim? That's not one of the reasons midaraisa. So the Yad Ramah says he has to find the Allah Labosh Sinai, or he found the drasha. The Yad Ramah held like the Tzlach's opinion that Atem Afilu Shogigin fundamentally does not apply to Ibra Shana. It only would apply, like the Tzlach says, to Kiddush HaChodesh. If so, maybe that's the Yad Ramah L'shitaso. The Yad Ramah could not understand that a reason that wasn't relevant in the Golus would actually be a reason that Rabbi Gamliel would actually send out Bizman Hazeh. So therefore, he had to say he was talking about for other generations and only speaking in theory that this would be a good example in the time of Beis HaMikdash. But actually, Bizman Hazeh, or in the Zman of Rabbi Gamliel himself, to actually be a valid reason, it has to be something that actually is relevant, because according to him, It has to fit the real McCoy because there is no overarching authority of Atem Afilu Shogim. Yeah.
So again, so according to that, there may be a problem with the Rambam because if you're talking about that as okay, it's marketing and we're trying to convince, you're sending this letter to the Golan,
Right.
not to the Am Yisrael.
That's a good point.
Israel.
That's a good point. That's a good
So
point.
why
Why do you have to add a sad if
They have no say.
That's true. The only thing I can tell you is that people in Gullus speak and WhatsApp and they call the people in Eretz
It's
Yisrael.
money.
So they're going to have to, this is what they presented. So ultimately it's going to get around. But it's a good aura. It's a very good aura. All right, Shekayach.